Hello students, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video we'll start from section 160 till section 159 we've already done. You must have seen my videos, so if you have not seen then go and check it out. So this we are doing directors chapter. We'll start from section 160, but if you are a new user, means if you are seeing my channel for the first time, then I must tell you that this video is basically for CA final students, and for CMA and CA students I would say that if this chapter is in your curriculum then you can also follow my videos, there is no issue. And I'm following entire ICA study material for this chapter because this is very beautifully designed. If you wish, you can also follow this material. You will get the PDF link in the description box. So let's start from section 160. Right of persons other than retiring directors to stand for directorship, and it's the latest class, means for May 2022 term. A person who is not a retiring director is also eligible to stand for directorship. Section 160 of the Act and Rule 13 of Companies Rule 2014 contain provisions in this respect. These are discussed and under. So what this section is all about? This section is regarding right of persons to stand for directorship. Now, who are excluded from this? Retiring directors. Clear? So provision, detailed provision is here under. First, they have given requirement of written notice. Now, person, there can maybe two cases. Like if Mr. X himself wants to get appointed as a director, or second case can be Mr. X proposes Mr. Y to be appointed as a director. Okay. So first case is, suppose Mr. X wants to get appointed as a director. So what he'll do? He'll give a written notice. So person who applies his candidature as a director, a person other than a retiring director, shall be eligible for appointment as a director in a company at any general meeting, whether in AGM or EOGM, if he has given a notice in writing under his hand signifying his candidature as a director at least 14 days before the meeting at the registrar office of the company. So the person who applies his candidature as a director is required to give the notice in writing under his hand, means that notice should be in his handwriting, and it should be given at least 14 days before the meeting at the registrar office of the company to be eligible for appointment at general meeting, means at AGM or extraordinary general meeting. Now second case is member who intends to propose other person for directorship. So in that case, what they have given, instead of above person, some other members of the company who intends to propose such other person as a director can also give a written notice at the registrar office of the company signifying his intention to propose the other person as a director for directorship at least 14 days before the meeting. So if Mr. X proposes Mr. Y to be appointed as the director, then also Mr. X will give a, in this case same, written notice will be given at the registrar office of the company at least 14 days before the meeting. And with this written notice, what should be it should be accompanied with the deposit amount. The written notice needs to be accompanied with the deposit of 1 lakh or such higher amount as may be prescribed. And exceptions means, in case of appointment of the 3 directors, deposit amount is not required. In case of appointment of independent director, in case of director recommended by nomination means NRC, nomination remuneration committee, if any, under section 170 subsection 1. In case of director recommended by board of directors where there is no NRC. Clear? So in these 3 cases, an appointment of these 3 directors, deposit is not required. Now action by the company means, once written notice is given by the member, means given by the candidate, then what action company will take? The company shall inform its members regarding candidature of a person for the office of director, and this will be done in accordance with the manner prescribed in Rule 13 of Companies Rules. The same is stated below. So what is the manner? The company will take the action at least 7 days before the general meeting. The company shall inform its member of such candidature, and the company will inform the members at least 7 days before the meeting, before the general meeting, and company will inform by serving individual notices through electronic mode to such members who have provided their email addresses for communication purposes, and in writing to all other members, and by placing notice of such candidature on its website if any. Means such members, if they have provided, means if the members who have provided email addresses for communication purposes, so those members, intimation will be given to those members by serving individual notices through electronic mode, and through other members intimation will be given in writing, and with that notice will also be placed on its website, okay, on the company's website if there is any website. But there is one exception, means there is where there is no need to serve notices individual. So If notice, there is exception. Exception means if the notice is served in any, at least once in a vernacular newspaper and at least once in English language, in English newspaper circulating in that district, then there is no need to serve the notices individually. Let's read this one. Where there is no need to serve notices individually, it shall not be necessary for the company to serve individual notices to the candidate if it advertises such candidature not less than 7 days before the meeting. So, if the company advertises such candidature at least 7 days before the meeting, where it advertises at least once in a vernacular newspaper in the principal vernacular language of the district in which register office of the company is situated, and at least once in English language in an English newspaper circulating in that district. So, as you all know, vernacular language means the language which the ordinary people speak in that particular region or district. So, in the district where the register office of the company is situated, there must be any vernacular language, any language that is spoken by the ordinary people. So, if that advertisement is done in the vernacular newspaper circulating in that district, and with that it is also advertised in any English newspaper circulating in that district, then there is no need to serve individual notices. Now, refund of deposit. The amount of deposit shall be refunded to such person or as the case may be to the member if the person proposed gets selected or as a director or gets more than 25% of the total valid votes cast either on show of hands or on poll. Means when this deposit amount will be refunded if the person proposed gets selected, or if he's not selected but he gets more than 25% of the total votes, total valid votes either on show of hands or poll, then he will get the refund of deposit. So, in explanation they have just given this, they have just clarified this thing, that no deposit fee shall be refunded to those candidates who are not appointed as director or who do not get more than 25% of total valid votes in favor of the appointment. So, this is pretty much clear from point number 4 that the director who is not appointed, the directors who are not appointed or who do not get more than 25% of the vote, in those cases deposit amount will not be refunded. Now, for the purpose of section 160, the expression retiring director means a director retiring by rotation. Now, note number 2, what they have given, not all the directors are retiring directors. Yeah, it's clear, not all directors are retiring directors. Therefore, if additional director or alternate director or an alternate director or nominee director or director appointed to fill casual vacancy, these directors are appointed as regular director, then the procedure that is prescribed in section 160, that is required to be followed. Okay. Similarly, where the director retires by rotation, but instead of reappointing the retiring director, new person in his place is proposed to be appointed, then this 160 provisions are attracted. Clear? Now, in clarification they have given that in case of nidhis, the amount of deposit shall be 10,000 rupees. Okay, instead of 1 lakh it will be 10,000 in case of nidhis. In other words, a person, not a retiring director, proposing his candidature as director nidhis or some other member proposing such person's candidature shall be required to deposit 10,000 along with the written notice. So, 1 lakh or such high amount as it was given, it will be replaced with 10,000 rupees in case of nidhis. Now, they have given the MCA wide circular has clarified that in case of section 8 companies, the board of directors shall decide as to whether the deposit of 1 lakh is to be forfeited or refunded if the person proposed as director fails to secure more than 25% of the valid votes. In other than section 8 companies, it is clearly mentioned that if the person fails to secure more than 25% of the valid votes, the deposit amount will not be refunded. That is clearly given in explanation. But in case of section 8 companies, this is not the case. If the person proposed as director fails to secure more than 25% of the votes, then the board of directors will decide either to forfeit that money or refund that money. Okay, that 1 lakh can either be forfeited or can be refunded. So, it is up to board of directors, they will decide. Now, exemption section 160 shall not apply to government company in which entire paid up share capital is held by central government or by any state government of governments or by the central government and one or more state governments. Then a subsidiary of government company referred to in A above, in which the entire paid up share capital is held by government company. So, it is not applicable to government company, subsidiary of government company. So, in terms of notification, this section 160 is applicable to private companies. So, exemption is applicable to private company also. Then point number 3, they have given Section 160 is also applicable to Section 8 companies whose articles provide for election of directors by ballot. Means if in articles of association of Section 8 companies it is given that directors will be elected by ballot, then Section 160 is not applicable. So altogether Section 160 is not applicable to government company, subsidiary of government company, point number 1. Then point number 2 is it is not applicable to private company, and point number 3 they have given it is not applicable to Section 8 companies whose article provide for election of directors by ballot. So note they have given in all the 3 cases mentioned above, exemption from application of Section 160 is available only if the concerned company has not committed a default in filing its financial statement under Section 137 or annual return under Section 92 with the registrar. This same condition is almost given in the earlier sections which we have studied. So this exemption will be available to this in these 3 cases only if there is no default in filing financial statement under Section 137, or if there is no default in filing annual return under Section 92 with the registrar. So this completes our Section 160. Now Section 151, appointment of director elected by small shareholders. According to Section 151 of the Act, a listed company may have one director elected by small shareholders. It is for listed company. A listed company may or may not. A listed company may have one director. That director is elected by the small shareholders. The provision enables the small shareholders to place their, what is the motto? What is the reason behind this provision? This reason was to enable the small shareholders to place their representative on the board of directors of a listed company so that their voice is also listened effectively. Okay. The term small shareholders means shareholder who is holding shares of nominal value of not more than 20,000 or such other sum as may be prescribed. The nominal value means the shareholders who are holding shares of nominal value of not more than, means maximum 20,000 is the nominal value of those shares or such other sum as may be prescribed. Now, what is the manner of appointment of small shareholder director? Manner of appointment of small shareholder director and the terms and conditions of such appointment are prescribed by Rule 7 of Companies Rules. Provisions are discussed below. First provision, they have given strength of small shareholders required for appointment of the director. So this is the strength that is required for appointment of small shareholder director. See what they have given. A listed company may, upon notice of not less than 1,000 small shareholders or 1/10 of the total number of such shareholders, whichever is lower, have a small shareholder director elected by the small shareholders. So this is the strength, the lower, whichever is lower, the figure which comes, that is the strength of small shareholders that is required for appointment of the director. If this much shareholder is there, this much strength is there, then director will be appointed in a listed company. So strength is 1,000 small shareholders or 1/10 of the total number of shareholders, whichever is lower. So upon notice of this much directors. So if suppose if the lower amount comes to 1,000, so we can read the provision in this way. A listed company may, upon notice of not less than, means minimum 1,000 small shareholders, have a small shareholder directors. Means in that case notice of minimum 1,000 small shareholders is required. So then only small shareholders can elect their representative. However, a listed company may opt to have a director on suo motu representing small shareholders, and in such case the provisions given below in point 2 shall not apply for appointment of such a director. So the listed company can suo motu appoint small shareholder director. In that case this point number 2 provision will not apply. Let's read point number 2. So serving of notice by small shareholders. The small shareholders intending to propose a person as a candidate for the post of small shareholder director shall give a notice of their intention with the company at least 14 days before the meeting under their signature, specifying the name, address, share held and folio number of the person whose name is being proposed for the post of director and of the small shareholders who are proposing such person for the office of director. This is almost same like the earlier provision, section 160. However, the person being proposed doesn't hold any share in the company. The details of share held and folio number did not be specified in the notice. Okay. Suppose means what suppose, nothing to suppose in this case. In this they have said that serving of notice by small shareholders. So small shareholders are also required to give the notice at least 14 days before the meeting. So in this in notice what they'll specify, the name, address, shares held and folio number of the person whose name they are proposing for directorship, And in this, the name of small shareholders who are proposing such person for the office of director, those name will also be specified in this notice. And if the person who is proposed to, whose name is proposed, whose name is being proposed for the post of director, if that person doesn't hold any shares, then the detail of shares held and folio number is not required. Now, statement to be annexed with the notice. Which statement is this to be annexed with the notice? The notice should be accompanied by a statement signed by person whose name is being proposed for the post of small shareholder director. Suppose Mr. Mr. Y's name is being proposed. Mr. Y name is being proposed for small shareholder director. So one statement will be annexed with the notice, and in that statement, what will be given? The notice will be accompanied by the statement that will be signed by Mr. Y for the post of small shareholder director, and that statement will be signed by Mr. Y, and in that statement what will be stated? Point number A, B and C. In that statement his din will be stated, means Mr. Y's din, that then it will be stated that he is not disqualified to become a director under the act, and his consent to act as a director of the company. So these three things will be mentioned in that statement. Mr. Y's din, means the person who is proposed for the post of small shareholder director, his din. Second one, that he is not disqualified to become a director, and third is his consent to act as a director of the company. Okay, these three things will be mentioned in the statement, and the statement will be signed by that person, and it will be accompanied with that notice. Now, small shareholder director is independent director. Such director shall be considered as an independent director also. Therefore, he should meet the eligibility criteria pertaining to independent director as given under section 149(6) and should give a declaration of his independence in accordance with section 149(7) of the act. Now, the small shareholder director can also be appointed as ID, but the condition is that they should meet the, means that small shareholder director should meet the eligibility criteria for ID that is given under section 149(6), and that person, means who is proposed to be proposed for the post of small shareholder director, he should give a declaration also of his independence under section, in accordance with the section 149(7), means 149 subsection 7. So this is the requirement if small shareholder directors gets appointed as ID. Okay, so it means he should meet the criteria 149(6) and declaration should be given as per section 149 subsection 7. Now, application of section 152. The appointment of small shareholder director shall be subject to the provisions of section 152. 152, as we all have studied 152. So, appointment will be subject to the provisions of section 152, but few exceptions are there. Means these three things will not be applied, except that, means the appointment will be done as per section 152, but except that, means these three things will not be required, means it's not applicable, except that such director shall not be liable to retire by rotation, means small shareholder director shall not be liable to retire by rotation. Then such director tenure, means small shareholder director's tenure as small shareholder director shall not exceed a period of 3 consecutive years, means maximum 3 years. And on expiry of tenure, such director shall not be eligible for reappointment. So 152 will be, appointment will be done as per section 152, except these 3 points. Means these 3 points will not apply in case of small shareholder directors. Okay, so means small shareholder director is not liable to retire by rotation. Maximum tenure is 3 years, and after expiry of tenure, means once its tenure gets over, it shall not exceed a tenure is maximum 3 years, and on expiry of tenure, the director is not eligible for reappointment. Okay. Now, application of section 164. A person shall not be appointed as small shareholder director of a company if he is not eligible for appointment in terms of section 164, which specifies the disqualifications for appointment as a director. As you all know, in section 164, disqualifications are given of disqualifications for appointment as a director. So, if the person is disqualified as per section 164, then how can he be appointed as a director? So, a person shall not be appointed as small shareholder director if he is not eligible for appointment in terms of section 164. Now, vacation of office. A person appointed as small shareholder director shall vacate the office. Vacate the office when? If the director incurs any of the disqualifications specified in section 164. If means these are the cases, means these are taking place after appointment of such person. Okay, because before appointment, if section 164 disqualification was applicable, then you would have not get appointed. So if after appointment, if he incurs any disqualification that is specified in section 164, then he needs to vacate the office. Point number 2 is, if the office of director becomes vacant in persons of section 167, if director ceases to meet the criteria of independence, means this is applicable only if small shareholder director is appointed as ID. So if that director ceases to meet the criteria of section 149 subsection 6, then he needs to vacate the office. And office of director becomes vacant as per section 167, then also his shall vacate the office. Now, maximum number of directorship. No person shall hold the director or small shareholder director in more than 2 companies at the same time. Means in maximum 2 companies he can hold the directorship at the same time. But the condition is that the second company in which he has been so appointed shall not be in a business which is competing or is in conflict with the business of the first company. Means the second company shall not be in the competing business or in the conflicting business of the first company. Now, cooling period. A small shareholder director shall not be appointed in or be associated with such company in any other capacity, either directly or indirectly, for a period of 3 years from the date on which he ceases to hold office as a small shareholder director in a company. So the cooling period is 3 years. What they have given, a small shareholder director shall not be appointed in or be associated with such company. Such company means a particular company in which he is appointed. He shall not be associated with such company or appointed in such company in any other capacity, either directly or indirectly, for a period of 3 years from the date on which he ceases to hold office as small shareholder director in a company. So for 3 years he will be detached from the company. He will not be appointed in that company, or he will not be associated with such company either directly or directly. But he can be appointed in other company, but not in the same company. So this completes our section 160. Oh sorry, 151. 160 we have already done.